Reportage, the International Magazine of Photojournalism, issue 3, winter 1993, price £3.50. It's the second one I'm showing. I have 3. I think I have more, but I don't know where they are. But here's the second one. This cover is a Richard Avedon cover. I think 1986. Let me just check the back to double check. It's 1986. It is the photograph of Leo Erken, a Utah coal miner. And this, I think, was a dummy shot. And what Richard Avedon's done here, he's given up exposure guides to the printer. And this is so complicated. In the darkroom, you lighten or darken by the choice of grade of paper, which is 0 to 5. Also by giving it less light and more light by what we call masking. That's it. And we imagine this was the enlarger, and you turn the enlarger on. Here's the print. Here's the sensitive paper. This is the negative going on to the paper. You see this, and you know that you can sort of mask off. You give it the general exposure, and then here you would give it +8. Here you would give it +30. Here you would give it +20. So the layering, plus 100%, +30 here to get some of the head in. So you'll get I'm hoping I'm explaining this right. You get the average you want, and then you base the rest, on how you want to darken and lighten the shot. It's quite intricate. It's quite hard work. This looks amazingly complicated. They would have to have made sort of masks off to give that extra +30, and maybe cover the head to give this a 100% more. Who knows? But it's really interesting, and I hope I've sort of explained it. I have spent a lot of time in the darkroom, so about a fifth of my life's been in the darkroom. So yeah, let's go through it. So this is, again, it's a winter 93. This is a Dutch border prison by Ad van Denderen. Hopefully I've said that right. Ad van Denderen. It's called the waiting room. It's I think it's showing the transition from refugees and immigrants arriving into is it Holland? Yeah, Holland airports, and I guess the docks and stuff like that, and however they're getting in, and it's showing the sort of transit routes for them to claim refugee status or whatever. So it's a great insight. I'm going to bring this down a little bit because I want to concentrate on the pictures. So there will be some cropping of the paper. So I'm going to go back to that and show you this shot again, because it's such a good shot. Great, getting access and just capturing the essence of these guys and these guys too. They've got 2 totally different roles in this, and he's done so well, Ad, to sort of portray that relationship between these two, and the sort of solemn and lost look in the eye, and the sort of official attention to detail, making sure he's doing everything right look as well. So really intense, really interesting. And this is the waiting room. This is previous page, upper left, the border prison, and lower left, an Iraqis photographed an immigration office above, and this is in the airport common room. Yeah. No, this is the prison, the common room at the prison. Look at that shot. Isn't that great? Look at the Bible. And this is the Grenhospium courtyard. This is the prison, and the second-hand clothes shops, which is open twice a week, is there. And upper right is the refugee in his room. Yeah. So I think you get the gist of it. Some really nice shots, some great access. What can you say? It's still happening now. It's still going on. It's a sort of never-ending process, isn't it? The great photographer Andrew Testa, who was at his sort of, he was at his most productive. He might argue with that, but he was very productive, I should say, in the period of the 90s. He, I think, didn't Andrew Testa go and do a whole load of stuff in Kosovo? I think he did a lot of work down there. I do remember some of his work down there. I loved it. and I think he then shot a lot out of New York. I may be totally wrong. I don't like saying and stating facts if I'm not too sure, so I do apologise, Andrew. All I want to do is, I've got the facts wrong, all I want to do is just promote this work. I remember this shoot. I think this was in the Independent on Saturday magazine. I might be totally wrong again. Words by Peter Popham again. There's some great shots in there. There's a shot I remember from the original set, which I think is in here. It's this shot here, because he looked like one of my friends, and I remember seeing this at the time and thinking, wow, you know, this guy's got some balls going into this scenario. So left the Sabs after the stewards at the ceremony. Many of the stewards are hired by the day. Well, you can see the hired muscle, and this guy's facing them. But do you know what? The photographer, Andrew's got as much balls as this guy, because these guys have got no interest in Andrew, and if he steps over the line with him a little bit in terms of they think he's portraying him wrong, he's going to be in as much trouble as anybody else, you know. So just to get that Andrew, we forget Andrew has to be right in your face, right up in there, following it around, getting the trust of people. I can see there is another cameraman there as well, but you know, this is not an easy job. But I love this shot. It sort of reminded me a little bit of the, like, sort of Serbia, like in Kosovo, that sort of style. It's interesting. Here we go, some more stuff. Caroline Salguero, children playing amongst the bones and vandalised graves in the cemetery of high-ranking German officers in the East, former Berlin Wall. Before the wall come down, anyone entering the area would be shot. So this is just kids playing in the relics of the Berlin Wall. Interesting. That's a great shot, look at it. Not easy shooting at night. Oh, that's just a one-off picture, okay. Interesting. Subterranea, David Modell, words by Peter Popham. Having worked in Tokyo and having taken the train and the tube, the underground, whatever you want to call it, I do understand that sort of novelty of watching people just falling asleep everywhere, people being squashed up, and it's a crazy. I loved Japan. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. People were so nice. People didn't care you were taking their pictures. They were just such an open culture. It was really safe to walk around. There were a few drunks who got a little bit sort of leery with me, but it wasn't anything too bothered. But generally, everybody was like really nice and sweet, and you know, their show of drunkenness in their culture is nothing to be ashamed of. And you see people drunk all the time, but they just didn't really interfere with each other in a sense. So, yeah, look at that for a shot. Great shot. Love it. I didn't put the link for David Modell's website on the last reportage thing, which I'll do on this one. We've done some good stuff. Look at that. I remember that. That is just like, boom. It's just so full on. And this is not an uncommon sight. People just flashed out, you know, drunk. Richard Avedon, the making of faces, making faces. I'm a massive fan of Richard Avedon. If you think, for those who don't know his work, you can see he's got a massive camera there. I would say roughly, it's a 10/8 plate. That's A4, similar. But that'll give you an idea how big the negative is. That is the negative. So this here is that big, okay? And literally, if you can see the scale of these guys here, there, when he exhibits, they exhibit that big. So these pictures, which are this sort of plate size of the 10/8, they exhibited that big. It's crazy. It's just amazing. Amazing quality. And this is a famous shot, and I think this was a book which I have by Laura Wilson, his assistant, who almost did like field notes on Avedon's work and the sort of man behind the myth sort of thing. And this is a sort of way of her talking later about working with him, and that's what this sort of thing represents. And he's an important photographer. He did a lot of amazing sort of portraiture studies of American hobos and people out in the Midwest, and workers, rural workers, farmers, builders, you know, just out the people who make up a sort of marginal area, marginal part of society, and who may not get some sort of exposure. And Richard went out and just travelled the country shooting all the stuff. At the same time, he was shooting celebrities. He was doing lots of sort of very arty stuff, and a man in demand, and he's got a massive legacy and was an amazing photographer. And this is the sort of making. You can see, you know, this is a guy, I think the story behind this, they put the Queen Bee in, and then, or the Queen Bee sent, and then all the bees just lying, and brave man. But anyway, yeah, great shot, and that's the sort of making of it. You can't buy this, you buy it, you know, there's plenty of books around Richard Avedon's work if you want to follow it, and it's incredible. I know this area, Hounslow, well. I did My Sikh Life for a publisher in the 90s, and I had to sort of go to all the Gurdwaras and stuff around here. I had an amazing time, and I've got a load of Sikh mates who lived there in Slough, and just like really old mates of mine, and I love the Sikh culture, and I've been associated with it all my life, gone to weddings and stuff. So Leo Erken stuff has a bit of a resonance within me, and I know the area of Hounslow. So it's a lovely little study. I've been to weddings, and it's crazy, and it's just, you know, it's a celebration of music and dance and money actually as well. And yeah, so it's a massive festival and event, and it's just sort of the arranged marriage scenario. It's a classic London site. Look at that. Look at the sort of Greenwood area or something like that. Greenford, sorry. Crazy. Excellent. So the last part is to show you my poster, because I haven't opened it yet. So like I said to you in the last game, I got 3 posters for this, and I don't know if I don't know if I've got the right one in that. So Witold Kraskowski, Polish photographer, winter in Poland. I'll put it that way. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, I love it. So that hasn't, as you can see, it's mint almost. I've not touched it. Colin Jacobson likes to end this magazine with a sort of look at something which is a bit controversial, a little bit about ethics and art, which I love, and I think this should be looked at more. I think, in brief, I remember something about this, and I think this was a story by Alexei Ostrovsky, a Russian photographer who shot a load of stuff. He's like a sort of stringer, as we call it, somebody who's shooting for different organisations and based in Russia. And I think he set up a sort of these shots, and it ran in Time magazine. And this is some notes by Richard Ellis, who states was the picture of it in Moscow for Reuters. He knew immediately that this was all staged. So I think this ran in Time, talking about this. I think this guy's a pimp, and these are 2 child prostitutes, and how he's sort of looking after them. It was a whole load of tosh apparently, and Richard's just giving light to that. Colin's giving light to the whole process. It's good, and apparently some note in here about this photographer was notorious for setting stuff up, and I just think this after thing here is talking about how there was about from James L. Gaines, how they couldn't get the evidence to prove that they were set up. It's all sort of complicated, but it raises great questions. It raises great discussion for talk, and it keeps us on our toes for when we are thinking about doing stuff and when we're developing stories. And you know, you can't fabricate stuff. You've got to always be truthful in what you do as a photographer and a journalist. Therefore, you'll always have that dignity and always have that professionalism to stand by you. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. I loved what Reportage did, and like I've said in the past, it's such a shame that stuff like this isn't around. Back number, dealing with footpad. This was in 1943. It was taken on Hampstead Heath. It is a shot by... It doesn't say. Let's have a look in here. No. No. Oh well. I may have this wrong. It may have it somewhere. This was a photograph. It was basically, in 1943 there was an outbreak of bag snatching in London. Miss Phyllis Bootle shows how should we deal with it, because I think she's a jiu-jitsu expert. The pictures included in the exhibition, all human life, great photographs at the Holton Joyce. Sadly it doesn't say who it was. Great insight, love it. On the Tokyo subway, again by Modell, an insight into everybody who's involved with it and the covers and stuff like that, and sponsored this time by Fuji Professional Neopan. Wonderful. Another great book and a great poster. Thank you.